Let's go.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm your host, David Horsager. Join me as I sit down with influential leaders from around the world to discuss why leaders and organizations fail, top tactics for high performance, and how you can become an even more trusted leader. Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. It's David Horsager. I've got a special guest today. 1.4 million people listen to him every week. Over 100 million people have listened to him and his show, Entrepreneurs on Fire. He's got a new book coming out. We're going to talk about that. But it's so fun when I find an authentic, generous leader and then hear a little bit more about him. I mean, he won a car on, we got to talk about that just for a second. You won a car on The Price is Right back about a decade ago. He's been featured on a Bollywood movie of the year, 2009. His name is John Lee Dumas. He fondly, by his fans, goes by JLD. He grew up in a town 4 times bigger than mine. As you know, that is less than 2,000 people for him because mine was less than 500. Please welcome to the show, JLD.
David, you are a pro. You dug deep into the archives, my friend. You pulled out some things that people haven't mentioned for quite some time, but I will say, if you want a little chuckle, just go to YouTube, type in John Lee Dumas, Price is Right, and you'll get 11 minutes of how I won a car on The Price is Right. And it's a funny 11 minutes.
That's perfect. I can't wait. And, hey, another little fun connection is you're getting into pickleball.
I am officially a pickleballer. I have the tennis elbow to prove it. And I live in a community down here in Palmas del Mar, Puerto Rico. And we have a WhatsApp group named Pickle Del Mar. So you know that we're the real deal.
That's awesome. So we're going to get into 3 things especially. I'd love more time. I'm going to talk about podcasting today. I want to talk about the new book today. And I want to talk about another section of just kind of trusted leadership like we talk about all the time. So I'm excited about this. Before I do, 2 more things we need to know about JLD.
Oh, man, you pulled out the 2 that I would usually pick out at this moment. I mean, the pickleball, the Bollywood movie, you went to my Price is Right thing. How about this? I have an amazing 10-month-old dog, a puppy specifically. His name is Gus. He's a golden doodle. I love him dearly. He's named after Gus McCrae from Lonesome Dove, if anybody's ever seen that movie or read that book. And I would say the other thing is I just proposed to my 10-year girlfriend, who's now obviously my fiance, because she said yes, on Christmas Day.
And her name is Kate, and she's your partner in business and life.
Yes, and I locked it down.
There we go. Good. Well, it is interesting. This podcast, I mean, since 2012, you've got these... a lot of people start podcasts. A lot of people try to start media empires. You did it, and we know how you did it. I like something you quoted a while ago, and I forget the quote in my head, but basically you had a tipping point when someone said, hey, stop selling and start providing value. Tell me about that tipping point, because I think that was the tipping point in how you built this community that actually is so valuable now to you because you valued them first.
I'll back up a little bit from there to give you guys some context. So as David mentioned, I grew up in the state of Maine, very small town, less than 2,000 people, and went to college on an Army scholarship. So post-college, I spent 4 years as an active duty officer, did a 13-month tour of duty in Iraq in charge of 4 tanks and 16 men. So pretty intense stuff. And when I got out, I spent the next 6 years thinking that my life was set, but it was actually the worst 6 years of my life. I call it my 6 years of struggle because I tried law school. I dropped out after 1 semester. I was terrible. I tried corporate finance. I quit. Commercial real estate, not for me. Like all these different things, I could not find success. So I started to educate myself. And this was towards the end of those 6 years, by the way, of all these failures, by reading business books, audiobooks. And this one quote jumped off of a page when I was reading this book. And the quote was from Albert Einstein. Try not to become a person of success, but rather a person of value. And it was like somebody backslapped me, which I needed. And I said, wait a second, I've been chasing success and obviously only finding failure, but I've been chasing success. And what am I doing to provide value in this world? And I looked in the mirror, and the hard reality was I was not providing value in this world in any way, shape, or form. So in that moment, I committed that whatever my next venture would be, it would be providing free, valuable, and consistent content to this world. I did not know what that was going to be, but I kept on with my journey, learned, started listening to podcasts because that was free. So that was awesome. And I fell in love with the medium. I just loved podcasts. And to fast forward the story just a little bit, David, I essentially finally said, hey, I want to find a daily podcast that interviews entrepreneurs so I can listen to it every day and get inspired. And the show did not exist. And I was shocked that this show did not exist. It was so obvious to me this needed to exist in the world. So I pulled the page out of Gandhi's book, decided to be the change you want to see in the world. I launched the first daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. I'm not ashamed to say it, David. The day that it launched, it was the best daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. It was the worst daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. It was the only daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. I was the only game in town. So of course I won on my level. There was no competition. If you wanted a daily podcast, which enough people did, this was the only one doing it 7 days a week, interviewing entrepreneurs. And as you and I speak now, as you mentioned a little bit in the intro, 3,000 episodes, 100 million listens, 1.4 million listens every single month and growing. That's the media empire I built off of that one concept. How can I fill that void?
This is perfect. Filling a void, giving value. You'll find, by the way, we'll put all this in the show notes, eofire.com, and you can find podcasts. We'll be talking about the brand new book I'm excited about in just a few moments. I just ordered it myself. The bonuses are amazing. We have our own book, Trusted Leader, comes out March 30th. But you've got an amazing setup going. I'm really excited to get into that. Before we do, podcasts. There's all kinds of them now. You started at a time when there wasn't, a decade ago, there was a few less podcasts, but you got good. Tell me about the best or one of the best interviews. You had 3,000 interviews. Tell me about one of the best and what made it great.
One of the best was by a gentleman named Aaron Walker, and he came on my show. I had no idea who he was. He came recommended. He really had some great connections. He's in a mastermind with Dave Ramsey and Dan Miller and some other awesome people, but I'd never heard of him before. And I started interviewing him, and he was just so genuine, so real. And then he shared this one quote that I needed to hear at the time. It was earlier on in my journey, but I was definitely having success. And I was starting to wonder, is this all there is? Like success? Like I'm having success and I'm making 6 figures a month. Like I'm having success and notoriety. And this quote that he shared really set me up for even more success, which was try to go from success to significance. And I was like, that's it. I got to success. Now I'm going to move towards significance. And that's kind of been one of my major focal points going forward, is that I could have retired long ago, sipping Mai Tais by my Caribbean pool right here, loving life, like doing nothing. But man, it's all about significance to me. It's all about continuing to provide value to this world and seeing other people live and love and thrive because of that. And not because of the words that are always coming out of my mouth, but because of the conduit that I'm giving with Entrepreneurs on Fire, allowing other people to come on my stage and share their genius, their zone of fire with other people. That's what I do on my show. I shine the spotlight on others who have amazing stories to tell. That was powerful.
That's been one of my favorite things about this. I was flying 100 times a year, a couple hundred flights a year, 100 events a year. And I was like, I can't do a podcast. I can't. My tribe had asked for one, people we talked about as far as our team doing this. I mean, the gift is I get to talk to people like you. Every time I learn, I'm inspired, I'm changing. And that's the fun of keeping on learning. You've had a whole lot of interviews. This is a question I have for you. And it's the same question, by the way, and he just passed away not long ago, I had for Larry King when I was invited to his home. I said, here's a guy who's invited all these people, interviewed all the great kings and queens and presidents. And I said, what's your favorite question to ask? And I'll get to what his favorite question was, but what's your favorite question to ask?
What's something that you believe right now that you did not believe 6 months ago?
And so we got to finish the circle. The question is back to you. What is something you believe right now that you didn't believe 6 months ago?
That there could be an audio only app in the world that would absolutely be a powerhouse. And 6 months ago, that app did not exist. I would not have believed it if you told me it. And now I see what's happening in the world with Clubhouse. And I'm like, wow, I was wrong. Clubhouse is here to stay. It is awesome. And I kind of love it.
So Clubhouse, for those of you, for some even listening, it's really new. In fact, one of the blogs that maybe the best blog, I'll just shout it out right now. Go to EO Fire, look at JLD's blog. He's got a whole blog on it explaining and talking about it. We've been talking about it around here for a while, but you can look at that blog. If you don't know what Clubhouse is and why at least JLD thinks it's different and better than many others that have gone away, like Periscope, and we can think of all the others, right? So perfect. We'll go there with that. What's the best question? You've been on a lot of podcasts too. What's one of the best questions you've been asked?
What is something that you believe about being successful that most people disagree with?
What is something you believe about being successful? So this is great because we just make up questions on the fly. All right. So write that one down for me, Kent, by the way. So I'm going to put that one back to you again.
What happened here? You just come up with questions.
Exactly. We're learning as we go, right? Exactly. I'll stop doing this after this question, I think, but I'm not going to make promises because then you won't trust me.
I'm just going to start serving up softballs for myself.
No, this is it. What's the answer?
So one thing that I believe about becoming successful that most people disagree with is that you have to become the single best solution to a real problem in this world. And what I mean by that is a lot of people are saying, you got to spread your wings, try a lot of things, be, ready to flex and do this and do that. And, go 1 mile wide and 1 inch deep to try these different things out. You will fail, in my opinion, in trying to become successful with that mentality. You need to find one real problem in this world that you want to solve and become the number one best solution to that problem, doing nothing else until you achieve that goal.
Find one real problem in this world, be the best solution to that problem.
A key addition to that I did add, which was that you want to solve, because you shouldn't solve just any old problem that's out there. You need to want to solve that problem, which goes into my whole 17-step roadmap that I know that we'll be getting to in a minute here. But the key is that I'm talking about, it's got to be in your big idea. It's got to be in your zone of fire. And we teach you how to get that.
Great. Okay, we are going to get to those 17.
Not yet, though. We got to hear about Larry King's favorite question.
Yeah, we've got him on the hook. So Larry King said, my favorite question is why? Because when I can ask why, it gets to motivation. It's the motivation people have for things. It's the purpose they have for things. They just answer differently than when I ask them, something specific. How did they do that, or something about history? Like, not just your history, not just who you are, but why? Why did you choose that? And I thought that was fascinating. I think why is the big motivator. Plenty of our friends, plenty of people Simon Sinek, others talk a lot about the why. I argue it is not the key question. The most overlooked question that actually drives strategic clarity. But people know that from me, and they can get on my show and hear what I think are the top 3 questions that drive strategic clarity, that actually give hope, that take an idea to an action. I do agree with him and Sinek and others that believe why is the key motivator. The problem is they got a why, and many I see are singing Kumbaya right off the cliff because they're not asking the 3 questions we talk so much about as far as trusted leaders. We want to get back to you. So here we go. Let's go to one more, because it's Entrepreneurs on Fire. You've heard all this great advice. What do you think makes a great entrepreneur?
An individual who is providing the best solution to a real problem. That is the best entrepreneur. The ones that are successful now, today, and in the future are providing the number one solution to a real problem. And they have the following, which is a quote that I love. They have created a barrier so high that there's low competition. They have built a moat around their business that is not easily replicated. In fact, it is incredibly difficult to replicate. Great example, Entrepreneurs on Fire. My barrier was so high. If you weren't doing a 7-day-a-week show, you weren't competing with me because that was my competition, but nobody could get up to that barrier because it was too much work. So I had no competition. My barrier was so high. I didn't have low competition. I had no competition. I had built a moat around my business and I won as a result.
I think of our work at the beginning, even, 20 some years ago, I had to argue that how trust affected the bottom line because people thought it was a soft idea when we're talking about trust. Now, Forbes has made Trust the Business Word of the Year, best place to work, put as the number one metric for a best place to work. But we've been talking about researching, driving trust, and that became, we solve the trust issues in the world and business and corrupt issues in East Africa. That it's our. I don't know of anybody who does more research and application of building trust in leaders and organizations in the world. I haven't looked at it the way you just revealed it, though, and thanks for that. I think is this true? Just in thinking about this, it's not just it's the you could have a unique channel, or you could have a unique content or message or solution, right?
Absolutely.
So number one either. Okay. Well, with that, we're about to get to the book, but before we do, hey, does the producer have a question today?
I do. Hey, John. So.
What's up, bro?
I was wondering if, since you talk with a lot of entrepreneurs, what's a common mistake that entrepreneurs make that you've seen people do that if they could avoid it, they could maybe get to where they're hoping to go faster or more efficiently or be able to make a better impact?
They don't just wait too long to launch their product, their service, their idea, their concept, their whatever to the world. They wait way too long. That quote by Reid Hoffman could not be more true. It's not more true. If you waited to launch your product until it's perfect, you waited way too long. Those words are so true. And I see so many entrepreneurs cowering in fear behind perfectionism, behind procrastination, and they just want to live in that world of pre-launch. They want to live in that fake world of this might work, this might not work, but this might work. And that's a really comfortable, cozy place because it might work. It really might. But man, you've got to get it out into the real world. You've got to have a trial by fire. You've got to get real feedback from real people on your real products to find out if your actual solution is a meaningful solution to a real problem that people will part with their hard-earned dollars for. And if it's not, find out sooner than later what needs to be tweaked, adjusted, pivoted, or that it's just not going to work. And listen, I'm right here in front of you saying I did that for a month, for 35 days. I cowered behind that fear and that wall of perfectionism, and I paid for it. It was a huge, huge mistake in my life.
That's so true, isn't it? We see it all the time.
All the time.
You said something, people, something about, I remember this, something about being, people have been lied to by experts, especially in the online business world. What do you mean by that?
You've been lied to. You've been lied to, David. I've been lied to. Every single person who's hearing our voice and seeing our faces, they've been lied to because there are people that are out there that are spreading the message that the path to success is tricky. It's complicated. It's hidden. It's secrets. Believe me, I will tell you right now, it is not an easy path to get to uncommon success, but it's not secret. It's not hidden. It's not complicated. In fact, it's the concept of my book. It's a common path to uncommon success, a very common path, tried and true principles, specifically 17 steps that we have all taken. And by we, I mean successful entrepreneurs that we've taken to get to our version of uncommon success. But people, they want you to think that they have the key, that they know the secret hidden path that they'll reveal to you for $1,997.97. We've all seen it. We've all seen it. If you scrolled Instagram anytime in your life, you have seen that promise, and it's a lie. It is a common path.
The book is The Common Path to Uncommon Success. We got to get into this, and everybody's going to find out exactly where to find it. in the show notes. And we're going to find out. Let's jump right here. Where can we find out about it? And I want to get into some questions around it, but where's the best place? Because I know you got bonuses and a whole lot more. I mean, where at?
The whole 9 yards, brother. I mean, we want to reward people who are action takers. So if you head over to uncommonsuccessbook.com, you'll see an awesome video describing the whole book. You'll see 5 amazing endorsements from Gary Vaynerchuk, Seth Godin, Neil Patel, Dory Clark, Erica Mandy. You'll see 5 amazing bonuses.
Hey, it's Ann with the Trust Edge team here. As you know, we are passionate about helping you and your team perform at your best. And that's why David wrote his new book, Trusted Leader. This true-to-life parable follows the story of a CEO who uncovers the root issue threatening his organization's success. And in the back half of the book, David provides a roadmap for even how to solve those root issues. Get Trusted Leader for your team, your organization, or even just for yourself at trustedleaderbook.com.
Let's get into it. You talk about this 17-step roadmap. Everybody's going to want to buy the book. Everybody's going to do it, but let's get to the sauce. You've even said it. The secret sauce is no longer a secret. Give us the sauce. Let's go.
Listen, this is that culmination I've been mentioning of the 3,000 interviews I've done. I've learned from every single guest of mine. I've learned, I've studied, I've put down all the fundamentals. I boiled them down to these 17 steps. I've put them chronological, step 1 to step 17. This is a step-by-step revolutionary roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. It is clear. It is common. It is not easy. So if you're looking for easy, go somewhere else. But it is very doable following this process. We've kind of flirted around with step 1 already. I'll just talk to you a little bit more about it. Identifying your big idea. If you are not having uncommon success right now, very likely you are not getting up every day and working on and being and living in your big idea. You're just not. You're not in your zone of fire. When you see David on stage, that guy is in his zone of fire. That's what he's meant to be doing in this world. And not everybody's meant to be doing that or doing what I do or whatever other people you see are doing. You need to find your big idea, not David's big idea or my big idea, and launch a weak, pale imitation of what we're doing. You're going to fail, obviously. But if you find your big idea and identify that and get into your zone of fire and live there, that's step 1. And we teach you exactly how to do that. Exercises, templates, step by step. I mean, this is a book that's going to put you to work. So if you don't want to do the work, don't buy this book. Don't read this book. Your life hopefully is great how it is, because that's how it's going to stay, and that's fine. But if you want to do the work, if you want to really get to where this financial freedom and fulfillment is, which is after step 17, this is step 1. This is the first step, and it is a process. It is very doable. Every chapter, by the way, David, 3 sections. So chapter 1, section 1, how to do it, what it is, the steps, the process, the exercises. Section 2, how I did it in the details, so you can get a real world example. And then I said, of the 3,000 people I've interviewed for section 3, of the 3,000 people that I've interviewed in my journey so far, who best exemplifies this step? And I brought in, for this example, step 1, Hal Elrod, who has the miracle morning. And Hal Elrod comes in, tells how he identified his big idea, how he applied it and became successful, and how he recommends you do the same. So you get another perspective as well. And I do that for all 17 chapters, 3 sections, and it is so unbelievably valuable. And then you move on to step 2 when you're ready.
We got to get a couple more steps in as a tease. Give me jump around a little bit, or take us on the journey a little bit further.
Sure. Well, let me just go to step 2, and then we will jump around after that, because this is where so many people get it wrong. They're just like, okay, well, I have my big idea. Now let's do this. I hate to break it to you. Your big idea, it probably is a great idea. I really believe that it is, but other people have had great ideas too. And they've had probably your great idea, your big idea, and they're crushing it. That's your competition. You can't go in there right now because you're not ready. You're just starting on your journey. So step 2 is discovering your niche within that big idea, the void that's not being filled right now in that big idea that you can get into, dominate, start, get traction, momentum, and actual progress. And then maybe down the road, you are going to branch out and get back out to this more broader niche of your overall big idea, but you can't start there. And so we teach you how to discover and uncover, reveal your niche. and really get into that place you need to be before you move on to step 3. Now, I will skip ahead a little bit here. I'll call David out real quick. The reason why David, when he was traveling the world, speaking everywhere, didn't also have a podcast that would have been growing another amazing part of his business and building his brand out, it's because he didn't have, at that time, an amazing content production plan in place for that podcast. If he did, he would have been able to get home, just record 4 episodes and then take off again. And there's a weekly podcast and he would have crushed it. Or he would have had a second mic on him while he was speaking on stage and he would have repurposed those amazing talks into a podcast and it would have been 0 extra work. He didn't have the content production plan that you need to have in place. That's the reason why I've done 3,000 episodes in 9 years and I'm on emails and social media and I speak all around the world too. And I do this and courses and 4 self-published journals and now my first traditionally published book. Again, 3 people. And I have a life, by the way. I actually really only work typically 5 or 6 actual days per month. Like they're full days, believe me, but only really 5 days of actual hard, like grinding work. And then 25, 26 days of not so much. It's because of our content production plan. That chapter will make your head spin off your neck because it will show you what it takes to do what it takes for financial freedom and fulfillment. And it's not rocket science, but it is work, but it's laid out for you step by step by step.
Love it. And there's more. So,
David, I didn't mean to call you out, brother, but
it's true. It's true.
You were just easy prey right there.
Yeah, I was. And what you're passionate about, there's a whole lot of things around what we could say about that, but we're doing it now and we're changing the world with trust. But love it. This is valuable for everybody. It's valuable content if you want to change the world. If you want to share a message, if you want to change the world, if you. Can
I refine that a little bit just from my perspective? Because go ahead. That was awesome. But again, I think sometimes people get intimidated when it's like change the world, impact the world, from my experience. And for me, it's what is the piece of the world that you know that you can fix? What is the one problem that's out there that you know that you can solve better than anybody else? Just start there. Start there and see where it goes. Maybe you always stay there and that's a comfortable, awesome place. But maybe, like David said, that cracks something open for you and now you are changing the world in ways you never thought of.
Absolutely. So I think of that. It's kind of like you take this core your uniqueness, your best of. And it's interesting how opportunities actually open to that. Like I didn't think we'd be touching with our trust work, corruption issues around halfway around the world, but I'm passionate about that now. But I'm passionate about the trust work and how that can change something. And it doesn't, maybe I'm not changing everything, but man, I'm passionate about where we're using it. So let's, the book is out the book is coming out. You're still absolutely passionate about that. What are you learning now? What are you writing on, thinking about learning now? Of course, you're learning every podcast you host, but what are you thinking about now?
I am learning that life is short, but also that life is long. I love a Tony Robbins quote. I was actually one of Tony's top 5 affiliates last year. So I got to go spend 4 days with him at his resort in Namali out in Fiji. Just myself, Tony, and 9 other people. It was unbelievable. And something he said there really kind of impacted me is that, most people, they overestimate what they can do in 1 year. They set way too big of goals for 1 year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And I think that's important to realize is that, you can do a lot in a year, but let's not get overwhelmed. Let's just take it one step at a time. But man, in 10 years, you can accomplish amazing things. So go big there. Stop the underestimating of the decade because life is short, but at the same time, it's long. You can get a lot done in that time.
What a treat. Well, it's time for the quick fire questions. You got a sentence for each.
Love a quick fire
Here
question.
we go. So as we come toward the close, so much more we could ask, so much more we could talk about. I've loved so much of this genuine and real, overestimate what you can do in a year, underestimate what you can do in 10 years. Life is short and long. This whole idea around not being, go from success to significance and be the change, Gandhi and Einstein, don't become a person of success, become a person of value, and a whole lot more. You'll see it in the show notes. Here we go. Lightning round starts now. What's your favorite book or resource right now other than your own?
The Lifestyle Investor by Justin Donald.
One sentence about that book.
Your money will work for you if you let it.
This will all be at trustedleadershow.com. You'll find all the details. Best advice you've ever been given?
Try not to become a person of success, but rather a person of value. Worst advice I was ever given: fake it till you make it. Terrible advice. Be genuine, be open, honest, transparent. Take people with you on your journey. They want you to be real.
You know, something you said a moment ago made me think of the farm. My dad would often say, you know, on the farm, you got to do the work. I think you said that. You know, the pile doesn't shovel itself. The hay bales don't bale themselves. The corn doesn't detassel itself or cultivate itself. You got to do the work. So that just reminded me of another piece of advice that you gave. You got to do the work.
Do the work.
What's a favorite? I love it. What's a favorite app or technology or gadget right now?
Schedule Once. It is the calendar that I use to book everything. It has been an absolute godsend for 10 years now. And also, I'll add a bonus one, Boomerang in Gmail. If you know how to use it, it's the best.
Schedule One and Boomerang. All right, before the final question of the show, where can they, I've shot out your website and some other things. You'll find it all in the show notes, but tell us, where can we best find John Lee Dumas?
uncommonsuccessbook.com. And if you're looking for another podcast to listen to, because the average podcast listener listens to 7 podcasts, I'd love to be one of your 7 entrepreneurs on fire.
Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's fantastic. Here we go. It's the final question. We are the Trusted Leader Show. Who is a leader you trust and why?
Gary Vaynerchuk is a virtual leader of mine. I watch his content. I consume what he puts out there. And it's interesting because I'm not trying to build the business or life that he has whatsoever, but that's not the advice he gives. His advice, which I love, is very consistent. You need to do you. And it's given me a lot of confidence and strength over the years to craft my life, which I now have.
Very good. Well, you can find everything and more at trustedleadershow.com. You'll see all the ties to JLD. JLD, thank you. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, your time, your community. Just thank you.
Many thanks.
We're grateful to have you on. This has been the Trusted Leader Show. Until next time, stay trusted.